How do you lift weights to punch harder? Watch this.
Our next caller is Jessica from Wisconsin.
Hey, Jessica, how can we help you?
Hi, guys. So great to meet you. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to be here, and thanks for all you do in the fitness space. My question is around, I think you had a question about this a couple weeks ago, but around building power for boxing. So just a little bit of background. I just turned 40 years old last month, and I have been training in boxing, mostly for fitness at first, but I hired a trainer and have been practicing boxing for a couple years, and actually am going to compete in my first boxing bout in April.
Wow. Hell yeah.
Look at you.
So really excited about that through it's a charity event called White Collar Boxing. So I work with an amazing coach on my skills. I run 4 to 5 times a week for cardio, for conditioning, but I'd really like to be able to build up some power in my punches, and would love to know what you'd recommend as far as a MAPS program or other programming for strength to kind of complement the rest of my training.
Yeah. So how many days a week are you training boxing specific right now?
3 to 4, sometimes 4 to 5, depending. It's usually pretty low key. We're just really working on footwork and that sort of thing. But yeah, we do get lots of practice in.
All right, and then you spar. Are you sparring right now?
Yeah, we spar 1 to 2 times a week.
Oh, cool. Full headgear, the whole deal, and you guys are hitting each other.
Yeah, full headgear. Although we are using 16-ounce gloves, so.
Okay. All right, so once a week of resistance training is going to be plenty.
Yeah.
MAPS Performance would probably.
Performance, please.
Yeah, that would be your best bet. I would pick one foundational workout, because the program has got 3 foundational workouts a week. That's way too much for what you're doing. I would go 1 foundational workout a week. Pick your choice, whichever one you want, and go through MAPS Performance. And then the mobility sessions, you could throw those in wherever. But once a week is going to be plenty with what you're currently doing. Any more, and you're probably going to overdo it, and maybe even take away your ability to practice what's most important right now, which is your boxing skill.
Yeah, and I mean, generating more ground forces is something that I would recommend as a focus, and how you do that is really like connecting your entire body. So like connecting your hips, your legs involved with your upper body. So that's a big focus of driving, through from your foot to your hips, snapping and getting that rotation, getting everything super connected, and be able to drive as much force as possible, all the way up into, your shoulder and your arm on release. So it's this whole fast, loose approach. So you have to kind of, it's complicated, right? Because athletics, you're always dealing with like, how much force I can create, but then also control. And so, there's the control aspect to it of being loose, but also being tight when you need to be tight, and being able to generate, that muscle contraction to really like whip that arm across and connect the arm with the hip. So, there's stuff in MAPS Performance you'll see with the stick where we do this, laterally, and we really drive it into the wall. And these types of exercises really help you to kind of focus that and channel that type of power from your hips.
Yeah. And by the way, when you get close to your actual match, for at least the 2 weeks leading up to it, I wouldn't do any resistance training. So I wanted to say that. So you can do resistance training, and about 2 weeks before, you want to cut it out and focus entirely on what you're going to be doing with your coach. And strength and muscle definitely play a role in power, but technique and speed play a bigger role in power. So a much smaller guy can hit a lot harder than a bigger guy just through technique and skill. I'm sure your coach, if you've asked your coach this, they'll tell you the same thing. They'll tell you, look, you can be big, strong, but if you don't have the speed and the technique, you're going to lose all that power. So most of it comes from there. So what you're going to get from the strength training is just more security.
Muscle recruitment.
Yeah, more security in your joints. There's going to be a protective element, maybe more stability. I noticed in your question you wrote down that you have some hypermobility in the shoulder and elbow, so it might, kind of help with that. So, but yeah, MAPS Performance, that would be the perfect program. 1 foundational workout a week, and just leave it at that. And then you can even go through the phases, phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 leading up to your match. And again, 2 weeks before, I would stop all resistance training.
I don't have much to contribute to what the guys already said. I agree with everything they said, except for I would add, I would defer to some of our friends that are experts in this. If you're not following Tony Jeffries and Phil Daryu. I think they put out tremendous content that's completely centered around punching and fighting. So
that's great.
Yeah, they're far more knowledgeable than us. We've actually had both of them on the show before, so you could search them back if you want to listen to the episode. But they both put out a lot of good content on both Instagram and YouTube. Both Phil Daryu and then Tony Jeffries. So check out what they have to offer. And then, like the guy said, I think the 1 day a week foundational training from Performance is great. And then the way I would dictate how much of the mobility sessions I do, it would reflect how much work I'm putting in boxing that week. So let's say I heard you say sometimes it's 5 or 6 days a week of boxing. So if it's an intense week of boxing, I may only do a mobility day or none, just the one foundational day. If you have like a lot of light work, like a lot of light footwork and like speed drills, but nothing really intense, I might add 2 or 3 mobility sessions to that. So use the mobility sessions to complement your workload that you're doing, because you're not going to get huge gains from that. I think it's more about helping you recover and staying mobile and connected. So use that based off of your workload that you're doing in boxing. Boxing comes first, 1 day of training as your foundational for weightlifting, and then mobility intermittently thrown in there based off of your load.
That's great. And just a real quick follow-up to that, as far as mobility work, should I be avoiding the mobility in my arms and shoulders? Because my right shoulder, I've hyperextended it a couple times. I popped it out. It's actually a real fun story at the gym because I'm the only girl and I didn't cry when it happened. I've hyperextended my shoulder a couple of times. So should I be avoiding that and not to keep it too mobile, or should I lean into that to make functional mobility?
Yeah, think of it less as range of motion increase and more of like gaining strength in that range of motion. So, taking that incrementally and being able to generate tension there. So like having an isometric focus where we're kind of squeezing our way through it and just really gradually going through each checkpoint of each angle, so that way you're able to stabilize it properly.
Proper mobility work includes strengthening, connecting. So that means it'll help your situation. So you're not doing like lots of stretches or just trying to move through different ranges of motion without connecting. That would make things worse. You got to stay tense and connect through the mobility work. So remember that when you're looking through the mobility sessions. A
good example of that, have you seen, Jessica, the MAPS Prime Pro webinar that I did that was free?
It's been a little while. I watched it probably 6 months ago, so I need to go back.
So do that. A good example of what the guys are saying right now is, I think the second or third exercise I do is handcuff with rotation. And when you hear Justin and Sal talking about, creating tension the entire time through the movement, watch how I do that movement and how I coach it. And all of your mobility work should reflect that. It should have this kind of intense, slow, staying connected type movement. Think of it less of like a stretch where you're trying to get a longer range of motion, and like Justin said, you're more connected through the whole range of motion.
Adam gives really good cues for that, and I think if you take those cues and then you also apply it to the one I did for checking with our compass tests and Prime, it's just it kind of goes through very specific ones for the shoulder. That would be helpful as well, but you do have to have that kind of intensity applied to make sure it's the focus is right.
And by the way, that's a great way to kind of prime the body before you go into any of your stuff. So if you're getting ready to go throw punches, if you're getting ready to do your workout, you could prime with those movements heading into it, and you're only going to be better connected, throw better punches, be stronger when you lift. So those are movements that you can do for recovery on days that you're not training. You could also do that as priming stuff to get you ready before you start throwing punches.
Awesome. That's great. I'm really excited. Thank you so much. I wasn't sure which direction to go. I have several of your programs, but I don't have performance. So really excited to dig in and get going with it. Cool. Thank you so much for your time.
We'll send that to you. Yeah. Good luck.
Best of luck to you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
No problem.
You too.
Yeah, the whole how to add resistance training to heavy, intense sport, training, it's supplemental, right? When strength training becomes the focus is when you're a strength athlete. So, if you're a boxer, a football player, a baseball
or you're
player,
in the off season,
off-season.
where
Or
you
off-season,
can
yeah.
devote it completely to that. But
yes. Good point. Very, very good point. But, she's focusing so much on boxing. She's amateur. She's new at this. That, one day a week, one day it's plenty. It's going to give you enough
It's going
strength.
to do a lot. Yeah.
Going to give you some stability if you do it right and complement kind of what she's doing.
Well, like you said, if the strength training at all, even in the slightest way, impedes on her current boxing training, then it's only going to hurt her skills.
Yep.
So, and the better you are at throwing a punch and the faster you are throwing a punch, because KO, right? She wants to KO somebody, which is great, right? So that's her goal. And so her speed and technique is going to play a much bigger role in that than her increasing her bench or deadlift or shoulder press.
Totally.
Hey, if you enjoyed that clip, you can find the full episode here, or you can find other clips over here. And be sure to subscribe.